I had one individual that was in for 15 years. I said, what did he do? Well, he verbally threatened to assault a correctional officer. Did he? No. Has he been disruptive? No. Don't you think you ought to let him out? And then ironically, when we went to let him out, he wouldn't come out. They were so dehumanized that they refused to come out.
For the exception of 4 months, I did 14 years. Back here pretty much almost straight, 10 and a half straight. The worst thing you can do to a person is isolate them in that way.
It was just basically lock them down, keep them away from each other and staff to avoid any kind of incidents, but we weren't giving them any kind of incentives, acting out towards staff or each other. That was their way of interacting.
To survive in that environment, you embrace hate as light. It's what keeps you going. You learn to embrace it in a way that just, it does something to your spirit, man.
The first deep dive with Vera was around data, really looking at our units, who is in there, for what length of time, what was the reason behind the placement.
We go in and we take a look at their policies, we do site visits to actually talk with staff, with incarcerated people, to tour facilities.
We had the data. North Carolina was rich with data. Vera was able to show us that looking at this data from a different aspect actually gives you a tool to use.
And then after a long assessment, then we put together recommendations that we think would help the department safely reduce their use of restrictive housing. So generally the recommendations we make fall into a few buckets. One is trying to reduce the number of people who go into restrictive housing in the first place.
We're finding out that for a simple fight, an inmate can get up to 5 years in segregation for just a simple one-on-one fight.
A big issue is usually looking at population with mental health needs. A lot of times, if those needs aren't met, they end up in restrictive housing. Looking at the population and seeing if someone really just needs increased mental health treatment.
We built de-escalation rooms where these individuals now, instead of exploding on staff or another inmate, they go into these rooms and they rearrange their thought process. Assaults have dropped anywhere from over 90 to over 40% in these facilities.
And then also trying to shorten the time they're there and get them out more quickly.
We do know that it should be swift sanctions, meaning that it should be immediately and it should be a short time. We have adopted 30 days as our max in our state, and it used to not have a definitive time.
And also changing the conditions in restrictive housing.
What activities are you entitled to? What is the interaction with other staff? What is the interaction with other inmates?
It's easy to resist change, but when you see the data and you realize that you're not only making it better for the offender, but better for the employee, it's easy to get buy-in.
It's about humanizing the system, humanizing it for our corrections professionals, for the adults in our custody, for their families.
They won't be in prison forever. I mean, not everyone here is a life sentence, so they will eventually be your neighbor. And when you want somebody that's going to be more adept to learning the acceptable social behavior versus somebody who was just caged up all day, you wouldn't want that for yourself, you wouldn't want that for a loved one, should they have to come here. I don't think that you would expect that for somebody else.
And I have always said, if it doesn't work, we can always go back to where it was before. But the fact of the matter is, it does work.